Good afternoon, everyone. We would want to start off by apologizing that we are competing with your lunchtime. Right? That was not the intention. But thank you for the introduction, Raman. Today we have Vijay, who's a part of the technology team at Qure.ai, and we'll keep this short, simple. But for us to be able to do that, I would want a quick show of hands of people who are builders versus non. Can we just have a show of hands of people who are building? Like, you are technical, you have an idea of what the technical stuff is. Great. How many of you specifically working on AI in healthcare? Great. How many of you selling to enterprises in US, Europe, similar markets? Great. Yeah, thank you. That's good. I think Vijay can.
Hello. Competing with hunger, it's kind of hard to keep you guys entertained, I guess. But I think I'll be younger than most of you folk here. I'm just 10 years experienced in the industry, but I had the pleasure of working in a very awesome startup. And I'm from Qure.ai. We're a AI radiology. We started as an AI radiology company. We kind of used AI to diagnose from medical imaging and all. Right now, we want to be the ChatGPT of AI all over the world. Pretty ambitious for us, but we have the right talent in our company to uh, maybe like be as ambitious as that. But yeah, I can.
No. Do you want to? Okay. So just to set the broad context in place, I work in MedPiper works in diagnostics. Cure works specifically AI in radiology. They are already a leader in that particular space. So the way we would want to look at this is. Maybe insights that we can deliver to you would be around access, affordability, and accuracy, and using technology as a lever to improve not just these three levers, but also bring in efficiencies in terms of, can we reduce cost, can we expand the scope of healthy living years to people, etc., and how do we translate that messaging to large organizations, insurers, hospitals, etc., as we go around in the talk. Right.
Yeah. Post also I'll be available for some questions. So I'll tell you my strengths first. I started as an engineer, purely as an engineer for about five to at least 5 years. Recently I've been vibe coding a bit, but I've actually moved into strategy and actually designing products and all of that. So that's my strength. And I'm also the chief information security officer of Cure, so I kind of know a lot about data security and all, and a lot of data privacy also. So yeah.
Great. So we'll pick off from where you started, right? In your journey right now, you're building one of the most leading healthcare AI pieces that is out there globally. How has that been for you from a pure technology standpoint of view? Because just 2, 3 pieces that I would want to highlight is, you're not building for developers, you're not building for technicians, you're building for clinicians who, unfortunately, considering the rigor of their education, etc., have zero idea of what's happened in the last 15, 20 years. A lot of it for them is probably in their language shouted to them that, look, you have to do this. So there is a little bit of a behavioral friction. There is a little bit of a technology gap in terms of their understanding. How have you been able to translate that and ensure that that converts to products that actually deliver well? How has that worked out?
Okay. You mean from 15 years, like they are behind in terms of understanding what the technology can do for them, or what?
If you are talking about the India ecosystem, I can simply say, if you take a technology product to a doctor today, the doctor is going to say, why do I need it? What are you doing so different? Are you trying to replace me? And it is going to be extremely hard to sit with a doctor and try to build a product. How did you guys crack this?
Okay. So there are multiple aspects of it. Like India, I can I'll not talk about the top private hospitals where like a bit of digital adoption is pretty there. I'm going to talk about lots of places where healthcare is not even accessible to lots of people. Right. The same thing applies in countries like Africa and lots of LMSs around the world. There, honestly, like in every other sector, the technology is about at least like 5 years behind what's possible in engineering or what's possible in software engineering. That kind of gets adopted. But in healthcare, it is super weird. It's like the technology that operates in all the hospitals is 30, 40 years old. And I can give you lots and lots of examples for interoperability with X-ray machines and all of the kind. Everyone kind of use a protocol called DICOM. I don't know how many of you know it. So this came before the internet, but it kind of gets still used today. this was developed 40 years back, and that is like industry standard that gets used all over, even US and everywhere. And think of all the rest of the places, right? They don't actually use technology like at all. Like my mom is a anesthesiologist and a professor at a medical hospital. I was kind of working on some lung cancer product for my company. I just asked her, I wanted to collaborate with my actual mom, with my mom in a hospital. We kind of needed some patient data, essentially like for lung cancer, for example, you kind of need smoking history and all of it. Those are very big risk factors for determining whether someone is eligible for are at risk of lung cancer or something. I just asked my mom, like, how do you keep these records? She just told me they just write them in books and just store them on shelves. Now imagine like you go, some person kind of goes to a hospital and they kind of record that in shelves. And next time he wants to go to a different hospital because maybe he's in a different place. How are they going to get access to all these patient existing records, right? You cannot expect an end user to actually have proper records of these medical records with them carried along with every perfect sense. So this is a very straightforward problem of digitalization that we have in India, maybe, right? So like at least like until 5 years back or 10 years back, maybe the AI right now is very, very different. You can maybe kind of show workflows in which you say, this is going to be like, you have to type this stuff on this form and this is how patient data is going to be recorded. Right now with technology, like you can actually do transcribing. You can automatically, like, we have released a product of the same thing like called Nair in a world conference recently. You just talk to it listens to patient-doctor conversations and actually stores it and creates a proper EMR record, electronic medical record of all the patients. So with technology right now, it is far, far easier to blow people's minds off. Like who have been operating in notebooks or papers 40 years with 40-year back technology, right? So that is a huge change that has come in, like I think this year or last year, like in a way. So that is one thing like we do. Like even the technology giants that are in all over the world, right? Their technology is also very pretty behind. So startups or new guys can actually show technologies that can improve their efficiency by 20-30% like very easily. It is not a hard thing today, at least.
So the interesting piece that you're saying is, therefore, a company solving for this will have to solve for digitization, dealing with hard copies of document, dealing with old formats, and then be able to take all of that packaging and package it in what is the latest, right? So how does that impact your product roadmap, your delivery, and even the way that you build your team?
With respect to product development, right? The way you have to think of it is like you have to modularize every part of component of your. This is me, like an engineer speaking specifically. And from product also, you have to you can't design an end-to-end product and directly go to the market and say, you go ahead and deploy this. You have to kind of modularize and actually have specific components which deal with specific parts of your problems. Say, for example, I just told you about digitalization, right? Having a record of all of this in a maybe a database is one application that you can actually plug in different places. Maybe someone has digitalization already. Then you have to figure out integrations with this platform. Like when you can actually build different sort of modular products, and with this it will be just like Legos. You can plug and play, and that's what we do also. We have something called a platform internally, which actually has detailed organized structure of patient data and everything, and you have different mechanisms of integration. Voice could be one, or like integrating with existing systems could be one, which will be used in developed countries. So you can actually over the years build an entire pipeline over which like it will be a big suite of tools that you can actually deploy on different geographies. Like that answers one part of your question. What else you asked?
Okay, I'll reframe it. In healthcare uniquely, therefore, based on the constraints that we just mentioned, you not only are solving for the technology piece, but you also have to, you can't go and tell a doctor to behave differently during the day just because your product now is available at the hospital. They already have an existing workflow, right? So in your product journey, product road mapping, and internal, how you build the product itself, at what stages is that different or drastically different from how it traditionally happens?
Yeah, if I compare healthcare products, right, specifically, so you don't go ahead and just ask a hospital to adopt your stuff. While building itself, you need lots of feedback into how you actually want to do stuff. Like in some places, even if the patient lives are actually improving, if they don't have any incentive to use your product, right, it won't get adopted. So like your end goal might be something different. Your product goals might be something different. The way you're going to get money is something different. Your business might be getting money different way. But there needs to be incentives or like could be efficiency or like could be decreasing their work in a way in your while you're actually building your product, right? You have to bake all of these in while you're actually building your product. So for this, like feedback from essentially the stakeholder or whoever is actually going to use the end product is very, very crucial. So we, for example, like we literally hire people of a similar profession of whatever we're building products for. For example, we actually build products for radiologists. We actually have in-house radiologists and we have advisors which we actually consult. So feedback into your entire product pipeline from the start is very, very important. Otherwise, like, otherwise you'll fail. That's it.
So does that mean that as much as it is a product, once you go live with maybe a large hospital group, etc., there is an element of customer onboarding that is a part of your deployment journey itself?
Yes. So like what we do is specifically for if I want to deploy in a hospital chain or something, we kind of get some champions or someone who wants to adopt our products. They might be directly like decision makers or somehow like incentivized within a hospital or within an organization to actually adopt the product in a way. So like once they kind of become champions, they can actually bring in adoption within their hospital also. See, like the way it operates is like someone top hire or someone in a hospital is going to say, I'm going to procure the hospital, now go ahead and use it. It's not their responsibility to actually ensure everyone is actually using the product in the way it is intended for. So you will, if you're a decent enough company, you'll need decent enough operations team within your company to actually teach people how to use a product the most efficient way and how it is actually make people understand how their work is getting more efficient or how how their daily life is actually becoming easier. It is our responsibility as when you're actually selling it to someone also, like to bring adoption of the product, adoption of the features within the hospital or any organization.
So are there any specific cases or examples in your history while doing this where you felt what it would be like to have an understanding is there is one, the product itself. Second is getting the hospital to use this. Deployment was done. Some amount of early learning was handholding was done. But then you realize over the next 12 months or 24 months that no, the stickiness is not there and product team has to intervene on some technical intervention is needed.
Yeah. I'll explain one of the products that we do. Like I have touched about it. So lung cancer, right? So business use case is pretty clear. I'll tell you what the business use case is. So we are experts we have like a very big research team. We have very big data set for training the AI models. We can on X-rays detect a very tiny nodules or something for lung cancer. This is not a protocol anywhere in the world at all. So we can actually detect very early stage lung cancer. I'll tell you what the impact is. So there are like mainly 4 stages of lung cancer that people kind of talk about. In the earliest stage, if you kind of detect it, the probability that the person is going to survive more than 5 years is greater than 80%, sorry. And if they get detected in 4th stage, it decreases to 5%. It is ridiculous. Sad reality in India is if you get detected with lung cancer in India, you're going to die. Like pretty soon. This is sad because detection is happening very, very late in India. And all over the world, the only companies that have actually solved it are like maybe the best in the world are like Japan or something. They do just random incidental screening, just screen people randomly with X-rays and all, X-rays and CTs. So like now you say like this is a very nice use case, right? You kind of you can detect cancers like very early if you have this algorithm. Yeah, like I'm going to save patients' life. Perfect. We went to with this product, this seems very nice use case. We went to this product and tried to deploy in lots of US hospitals. The funny thing is like when like an early stage nodule or kind of gets detected, it's not guaranteed that nodule is basically some abnormality in the lung that gets detected. To know whether it is cancerous means like it actually has to grow. You have to do a progression. So there is a follow-up that needs to be done with the patient or like with the personnel. Like say you come after 3 months, I'm going to image you again and then see whether that thing has progressed or not. That's a very good indicator. And eventually like if they're like we are mostly certain that it's a cancer, they're going to do a biopsy where like they just take a tissue from that part of the lung and see whether it has cancer cells or not. That is the ultimate ground truth. But screening is just an indication of that. So like now I have my beautiful algorithm. I just went and deployed there. And what we realized was like okay, you're calling patients and everything is fine, but they're not actually coming up. The follow-up is pretty bad. So it's not guaranteed that it is a lung cancer patient, but I have to ask those people. There are specific people called nurse navigators that actually work in hospitals to call people up and say, there is some doubt whether this could be lung cancer, can you come and follow up? If the follow-up there itself is kind of bad, what is the point in actually you detecting lots of lung cancer patients? So like, you have to solve that problem also. That's when we kind of realize that, oh, okay, follow-up is a problem. For me, my end business goal is to detect more lung cancer early stage patients. So like patient health, like patient survivability will increase and it's good and good for everyone. But at the end, if my funnel is actually dropping off, what's the point in having this beautiful algorithm, right? So you have to bring in efficiency to that. Like this is just a simple example, but like there will be lots and lots of things where you actually deploy on the market and you will see that there are a lot more problems that you actually have to solve for reaching your end business goal or reaching your end like criteria or success criteria.
So when that is how the nature of the industry is, you're a company that is building an MVP or planning to pilot with a hospital or anything that is related to healthcare. How do you account for bandwidth in terms of technical feasibility and resources? Because you're operating on capital constraint, people constraint, etc. Right? So what has been methods that you found work well for you?
Initially, like one of the things I said, whenever you're kind of going to do a MVP, right, include people, technical feasibility is not, right now, like if 100 things are possible technically, what you can actually achieve through regulatory means or something is like maybe 20 or something. Like the technology has advanced so far in like, but the entire healthcare industry has to catch up genuinely. So like, if I kind of see, then the constraints are going to be whether you can actually deploy the product there. Suppose like today, if a doctor chooses to just use ChatGPT and just keep talking to put voice mode on and just ask what is actually asking whatever the patient has said, it's going to give you perfect recommendations. But is regulatory properly cleared for that? No. Like you already have a solution on everyone of your mobile phones, right? All of you are doctors technically, right? So like, what we can't deploy that. So technology has evolved so far in the last couple of years that regulatory and actually making whether it is okay to do it, all of these things kind of come up. So from the start of your journey itself, you have to include clinicians, whether whatever, like keep validating it, and regulatory authorities or like regulatory experts within your development pipeline to see whether this is okay to do right now or like it's not okay to do right now. But yeah.
So, do you think the critical point in saying regulations is working against us to regulations will now not be a friction layer or is going to be supportive of us? For companies building AI in healthcare, do you think it is a question of how much data and therefore how much accuracy you can get to? Or is it much more behavioral and institutional in terms of adoption and the industry being able to say yes for it?
Multiple layers to this mainly. So like, both regulatory and laws kind of are very slow to catch up to what is possible through technologies right now. So see like 4 or 5 years back or something, right? Like where we did not have LLMs and ChatGPT and all of it. Like genuinely because it is so easy to use these things and the liability is just on each and every individual. You're just happily using ChatGPT to do everything, or you're asking general questions, you're actually learning all of this, right? You're actually also sharing a bit of personal data. But legally, like, is ChatGPT allowed to do it? No, they throw liability on you. So when you're actually going to build tools using these LLMs or anything, right? It is kind of a, like, catch-up sort of a thing that legal and laws have to do. Like India is behind in terms of data privacy laws until recently. Europe and all had very strict data privacy laws until now. But just the business use case and the amount of impact that all of these tools are going to bring is like, will far outweigh like data privacy concerns in some areas at least. Like if I go to Africa and like, if I'm going to diagnose a lung cancer patient, right, I have to know whether that guy has a smoking history or like risk from parents or something. Laws will definitely like, there actually, if you are able to solve actually cater to 20 more people every day than 10 more people, hospitals are going to adopt you directly. In lots of places, laws still have to catch up, but still, like, in a way, like if you're actually developing a product and you take the minimal amount of information that is necessary, PHIPA or anything that is needed for your product to develop, it will be an easier case for you to actually get regulators approve your product. You don't go haphazardly collecting every single data point that is not necessary for your product to develop and just put it in the product just as a collection mechanism, because eventually later I can sell the data somewhere. That's a very bad thing to do, and that is what these laws actually prevent companies from doing. They don't just want you to be evil or like exploitative in nature. So regulators will understand if you're actually saving some human lives. And if you're going to say this information is necessary, otherwise like I cannot decide whether this guy is going to die in a couple of years or something, they are going to be fine. And it is actually catching up. Like regulatory, I'm sure lawmakers are having I don't know if there are any lawmakers here, but it is a very big leap in technology that we have like in these couple of years that we have had. And there is lots of gray area that is kind of put in whether it is okay to do or okay not to do with respect to LLMs. And people find the usefulness factor of all these LLMs to be overridden by their own privacy constraints right now, which is like weird to say, but it is true. All of you maybe also will agree. But
great. So, like, just summing up the whole pieces that we discussed, the industry is an extremely legacy industry. The formats and the kind of regulations they have, the kind of data storage as well as exchange mechanisms they have. This is one of those industries where you can't go and say, this is the latest, you use us. This is one of those industries where you have to go and say, I will bridge the whole gap, right? So for a company that's probably done an MVP or a pilot, figured out the basic, okay, this is sticking, we have some degree of stickiness, and the path that Qure took, right? You today are a global product. So when they are now going to say, okay, now I want to do things to unlock scale, from a technical point of view, what would that mean for that organization, right? So you are let's say 5 people, 6 people tech org. You have built your basic MVP. You have landed 1 or 2 hospitals. It could be India, it could be US. Let's talk about global markets, right? And now you are preparing for scale. Your founder has come in and said that we are going to scale now.
Okay, this is an engineer in me speaking again. So even for real estate startup spread, I'll not ask you to think for scale, which is like could potentially never occur from day one. But it is possible to write your components modularly and actually just have a second thought in mind on eventually how you're going to replace each of the components. So this is a behavioral change that can potentially come from engineering or something. And eventually, if the idea succeeds, maybe you can choose to rewrite the entire thing, or essentially practicing some good engineering practices can take you a long way in terms of replacing stuff with microservices or scale eventually 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, or like maybe 1 year down the line, half year down the line. But from product and business also, you have to kind of give clear instructions on what is a POC and what is supposed to, what is more likely to succeed. I mean, like, it is a pretty it would be very unproductive for sales or anyone who are actually selling these products, right? But it is sort of a gray area. But from engineers' perspective, I can say like you have to think of these things on what can actually come up. We have at least for Qure, we have built up lots and lots of products, and we have like 90% of reusable stuff because we have thought of all modularity from the start itself. So like, that's a general advice, I mean.
Great. In the interest of everybody being able to have at least some lunch, we'll open up for questions so that, Vijay can take up questions and then we'll wrap the session post that.
I'm Madhivanan, founder of Constructive AI. Basically, human body is made up of cells, right? So the anatomy of human body is everywhere cells. So is it possible to track the behavior of the cells from the birth and predict the diseases that a person the disease can come to a person? Is it possible?
Yes, like in a way I can give you clear examples on some of the latest technology that is kind of related to it. So From blood itself, like you can actually take. I'm pretty unclear on the details, but someone has researched it within my company. So you can actually take the DNA sample and actually predict risk of them getting cancer or something. So this is a specific area, but in general, it is becoming more and more possible to do with some of the latest technologies. It is out of my scope, but I have seen. I have seen this sort of things.
Yeah, of course, the lifestyle of that particular person decides a certain portion of it. But I believe that as you told, the genetics may also play a role in this. So if we are able to analyze those at the young age itself, then we can take a lot of preventive measures for that person to be saved.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely a possibility, but the technology itself is like very experimental in this stage, and that too for very specific things. Maybe it is. I'll predict it's going to take at least 10-20 years for anyone to make this even possible.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can we get a mic to the right, please?
This is a question for Vijay.
Okay.
So, like, since you are operating in a very highly regulated industry, so I think how are you dealing with accuracies, inaccuracies, and how are you positioning your product with respect to accountability?
Okay. So for any regulation that you want to actually make, right? Initially, you will have. Suppose you are developing some AI models for like initial. Right now, AI is very different from what we have done prior. We have done vision models and all. So you're going to have certain success criteria that you can actually say to like make the regulators approve your product. For example, right now AI is all hip and cool, right? Everyone is putting AI in their company's name. We kind of started AI 8-9 years back when it is not that well known, and we had to prove that like AI can actually do sometimes a better diagnosis or something than people. So one of the standard things was like this is for tuberculosis screening specifically. So WHO came and endorsed us, saying like you can use Qure.ai and one other company to actually use AI in the absence of a radiologist. So you have to define as a company, you have to define certain sort of metrics. For us, a metric is we are focusing radiologists, right? So even in among two radiologists, there's going to be lots of ambiguity in lots of cases. So the standard is like you have, for us at least, you have 5 panel of radiologists, and AI is actually detecting better than you. So all your metrics are based on that. So you kind of release an MVP model or initial criteria for your research team or something that this is your criteria and this is what you have to beat, and you will have to fund a study or something to actually prove that this is independent third-party study to prove that it actually works. And you define this metric, and every consecutive update to your model that you kind of do has to follow this minimum criteria. And you define that criteria, and regulators are going to be happy, like initially. And going forward from that MVP, you can kind of keep improving the model, and any better results are better for you. So that is how you approach. And once you kind of do this sort of thing for a couple of products that you own, it will become far and far easier because you will become experts on how to do this for any of the products that you kind of develop going forward. That's what happened to us also.
I mean, this is for the regulatories to getting the approvals.
Yeah.
But when you, does the customers, like the doctors or clinicians, do they understand these matrices, and how do you basically communicate with them?
No, they don't care. So you kind of show, you prove to FDA, if it's US, you prove to FDA, or like you prove to other MDSAP, or like you kind of get this audits done, and you kind of have a stamp over your product. And sometimes people are going to, like bigger hospitals or someone, they are going to sit and evaluate whether it is fine. But say like a hospital in Africa who can't even do anything, they are not going to care. Like as long as they are actually seeing more benefits eventually after deploying your program or something, it will, then you can actually prove. Otherwise also there are mechanisms which we actually deploy. We develop products, software for doing a discordant sort of an analysis, where you kind of deploy your product on a couple of days, on even number of days, and see these are the number of cases you're figuring out, and these are the number of, on off days, these are number of cases you're figuring out. You kind of do this temporary pilot with them and just show them the numbers that hello, this is how my algorithm is functioning. And it will be pretty evident to them. And that will usually translate to some monetary incentive for them to get adopted, like them to adopt our software, right?
One last question, like in case of like things go wrong, right, when the AI is deployed, so who takes the accountability? Is it
Okay, this is a lot on trust on AI, and also right now, like at least for initially, when assume that there is no trust on AI, you're going to have like second-hand mechanisms where you don't take liability. There is always a second person that's actually looking into your stuff, and in theory, you can also deploy in cases where there is like very less liability. For example, in very not developed countries, in countries like US or something, anyway, someone is actually looking at a scan or something, some radiologist is actually sitting and looking at a scan. What if you just feed the negative scans to your AI and flag out more positive cases that the radiologist has missed? Where is the liability with us? Like radiologist is anyways missed, and potentially like in insurance claim is like potentially they are going to get sued by insurance if they like sued for insurance, or like they're going to be sued because there is a misdiagnosis. I'm saving their like the hospitals, right? Where is liability there? So you can actually find such sorts of use cases where you can deploy AI, even if like there is a high liability scenario. And in LMICs, people will not care because like you are actually improving lives and they can see it directly. Otherwise, they don't even have doctors to do it, right? So clear value can be shown in places. You can find use cases. And eventually, maybe in the future, if trust becomes so high that AI, it becomes proven in multiple fields that AI can do better, less and less number of such questions are going to come from customers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it from the questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Vijay and Nitthin. Before we head out for lunch, if you can just give away a quick token of appreciation to Vijay, that'll be great.
Thank you.